rewriting of the definition of family and marriage. And so there's another letter to the editor today, and this is what I call from somebody, I call them the in-your-face people, in-your-face Minnesota. They use the name Out Front Minnesota. No, it's in your face. They're constantly, see what goes on is there's certain people that want special treatment. They don't want the same treatment as other people. It's all right for the consul to denigrate the citizens up there and go after the citizens and, you know, denigrate people with a mental disability or an education disability. That's all right. But, oh boy, you sure shouldn't. We sure have to make special accommodations for this extra little group here, you know, that came on. This whole thing, this Human Rights Commission, this was all pushed by one person. That's Mr. Lannis. He, from the information I have, left his wife and kids and, you know, came out of the closet, and so now has this agenda. He came on the council with an agenda, one and only one agenda. So now we got this Human Rights Commission, and I already called Karen Guilfoyle and the city manager, Jim Antonym, and the city attorney, Chuck, what's Chuck's last name? Anyway, I made those calls. They called the state Human Rights Department. You know, where's the violation for the citizen that comes up there and gets denigrated the way Mr. Rosbach, with the blessing of the council, because nobody on that council says, Mr. Rosbach, you're out of order. Their silence is approval. And so that's the way they treat the citizens. And for the life of me, how the residents, the voters of Maplewood, put those people in up there, I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself, really. But when somebody gets up there and says the king has no clothes, what, they're idiots and buffoons? That's Mr. Rosbach? What an intellect. You know, I think his mind is probably about this big. So, and you notice how he says that this is Mr. Rosbach's show. This is my show, Mr. Zick. I run this show. That's Mr. Rosbach's word. So, but you know, there's this article in here. Did we lose the caller? Caller, if you want to call back, and we'll get you on. A community of inclusion. This writer says, I did not quite know what to expect. She went to the Maplewood City Council meeting Monday to find a mayor and council who understood and championed this ordinance as a positive direction in defining Maplewood as a community of inclusion. A community of inclusion? If you're a citizen and you go up there and they denigrate you the way they do, that's a city of inclusion? And Mr. Lannis wants to say that the city of Maplewood isn't dysfunctional? You got to be kidding me. Shows dignity and respect for all people. Did Mr. Rosbach and the Maplewood Council demonstrate dignity and respect for all people? Oh, wait a second. This is written by In Your Face, Minnesota. Ann M. Swanson, St. Paul. So she's probably, member of this group, I'd say she's probably of the same persuasion as Mr. Lannis. They have an agenda. They're going to push this down your throat, whether you want it or not. You know, they don't want this, that everybody should be treated with dignity and respect for all people. They just want it for their special choice of lifestyle. The ordinance was passed. Thank you for your leadership. Wonderful leadership up there. So, you know, folks, that's what you have at Maplewood. Now, at Maplewood, they got time for this. This stuff is totally meaningless. And you know what I think we're going to do? We're going to take and check on, because what was brought up at the Citizens Forum on Saturday is that there's no benefit to this, but what what the city is really setting people up for is to be targeted, because they're going to take and get people to come in and register, and then now this is do you really want to have license? Why should government license? Why should they license marriages? Why should they license domestic partners? Oh, that's so they can control it and dictate it to you. Like Alice said, George Washington was married, Abraham Lincoln was married, they didn't have a license. You know, government issues licenses for two reasons: control and money. And if you don't have a state-issued license, are you any less married? I doubt it. I was sitting next to an intelligent woman, gay, lesbian community, and we were talking, and she said, you know, she was of the same understanding as I have, to the extent that she said, I don't want government licensing me. I don't want government licensing my relationship. You know, a marriage is a covenant between a man and a woman and God, and this is what I'll say now, is that with the Tea Party and that whole movement is in response to this kind of foolishness, and I think you're going to see come out of the state legislature a constitutional amendment defining what marriage is, and we're gonna get away from this stuff. You know, you get these people that push, you know, in your face Minnesota, and they keep doing this stuff, and they don't want the same rights as everybody else. They don't want everybody else to be treated with respect and dignity. It's their lifestyle is what's important. And you know, a lot of people take offense to this, and those are the ones that put the Republicans in charge and the Tea Party in charge of the Senate and the House. So, you know, just keep going with this stuff. All right, we have some more clips here. Let's run right down the line here. Let's play a little. Oh, we have a phone call? Okay. Caller, question or comment? All right.
Yeah, Bob. This is a comment.
Go ahead.
Did you ever notice that toward the end of the meetings, there's not a soul left in there again? And just to say, about a year or so ago, there's always the regulars used to come in, but you don't see a soul there anymore. And with the attitude they have there, I think Mr. Rossbach chased everybody out of there. So, if you ever come into the meeting, someone should come in the meeting, right, just the end of the meeting. They won't find just a few people in there.
No, yeah, I mean, when Mayor Diana Longley was in there, the citizens got to speak at the front of the meeting, because by the time the citizens get to speak, they've already adopted their redefinition of family and marriage. They've already done the business, and now you can come up and they can say, so sad, too bad, or too bad, so sad. You know, that's their attitude up there. Well, that citizens are, to them, are an annoyance. Go ahead, caller.
That's exactly right. It's an annoyance. That's why anybody that comes up to that meeting, it's always been that way, especially Rossbach. He's always been They don't want anybody in the chamber. They should be up there with nobody there at all, so they can pull all the garbage they want anytime they want to. And the beginning of this registered partner thing, I saw that coming 6 months ago, and that's the only reason, as you said, is the only reason that Lamas is in there. And I can never understand what rights. What rights? I mean, if you need rights, get a hold of the Ramsey County somewhere. They have a commission there, and they also have, like you said, the states. They don't have to waste our time with this gobbledygook.
What you know what? They're closing fire stations, and I have a clip, and I brought that up 6-8 months ago that we're going to be closing fire stations, and Mr. Rosbach says, "No, Mr. Zick, you're lying again." I think those were his words. You know, and now, oh, we're closing fire stations, and Mr. Rosbach kind of scratches his head. Gee, I guess I didn't know that. You know, this is the guy that's supposed to be in charge of running the city. Well, let's go on to the next clip that we have. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these. You know, we'll hit the domestic, just a short piece so we can see maybe the vote, how that went down. Notice that Mr. Party Marv, he votes no, but he doesn't see any fault in it. He doesn't voice any fault. So he just whoever is silent submits, and Marv Copen submitted. All right, go ahead, play it.
Hey, got to snap it out quicker than that, Mr. Nephew.
Dang. It's because I had this candy in my mouth. Marv's plot worked.
I love the strategy. It's working.
Ms. Juniman has made a motion. It was seconded by Mr. Nephew.
I'll be the second then.
And it would be to approve the second reading of the ordinance, which would be the domestic partnership ordinance. Mr. Lannis.
Just one question for Mr. Cantrud and staff. Should the ordinance pass, perhaps as a matter of record, you could talk about when this would be available to residents and when staff would be prepared to accept that sort of
Certainly,
question.
Mayor and Council, before the vote, if it's appropriate, we will.
Now, do we actually have the vote? Well, take my word for it. The vote went 4-1. Marv didn't say anything, but he voted no. So I think there's nobody up there that'll speak out on these issues. It's really too bad, and again, I'll say that Marv did it because it's election time. And so, I'm serious about, we don't need government in our marriages. That the church has sold out to the tax exemption of 501c3. And, the separation of church and state, what that was that the government is not supposed to have a state-mandated religion and say this is the religion of the state. Everybody has to belong to this religion. That's what you have over in the Middle East with the Muslims, and it actually goes into being their law. But we don't have that here. But we're supposed to have separation. Well, if the church is separated from the state, why is the state in there pushing these tax exemptions on the state to compromise the church? I think that the church should to partner with the Indian nation and have their two separate nations print their own money, because you know what? The Obama and company just, $600 billion they're going to print again? What does that do to your money? Do you people realize what they're doing to the dollar? What's happening to your money? When they print that kind of money, well, they don't even print it anymore. It's all electronics. You know, the banks print money. It's called like